African, old biblical, reincarnation, hip-hop playlists, vocal ranges, sexist wages, sex changes, the game of life, bullets fly, ruin nights, players clueless, kids' rights, humans fight, nature loses, hard of hearing, dolomite, Darwinism, carbonite, hate's a virus, terabytes, hard to live with, parasites, come on!
Situation and circumstance, fighting for wisdom, not ignorance, trying to avoid it is not a lonely dance.
Oh yeah.
You can see each other with a glance. Situations and circumstances.
One time for your mind.
Not ignorance. Trying to avoid it is not a lonely dance.
From the desert to the bay, and all over the world, once again. That's all I got the air for right now. Just a quick once again, and then that's it for you. Once again, welcome to KCBZradio.com. This is Situation and Circumstance. And of course, I am ACE, another classic entertainer, AKA Mr. Classic. You can call me Anthony AJ. I give up my government and my slang nowadays. What's up?
Man,
How you doing, Julius? Julius in the building, and then somebody real special I'm glad to see again. But Julius, how you doing? Tell the people something.
Man, I'm good. I won't complain, man.
Look, some things never change. And it is an honor for me to welcome back somebody that, as far as I'm concerned, her spirit never left the show. Always coming with things to keep our insight tickled and our mental capacity expanded upon. And then as well as all those things, then she happens to be a fly-ass, beautiful Black woman as well. And she's joining us via New York City. What's up, Tiana?
Hello. Hi, thank you. Live from the BK. Brooklyn, stand up, you know. Brooklyn, stand up.
Brooklyn in the house. Brooklyn in the house. Yeah. Shout out to KRS-One and BDP. Ah. See, that's how I'm telling my age, right? When I say shout out to KRS-One. Who would y'all shout out from Brooklyn that's a musician? I'm shouting out KRS-One.
I mean, all of the prominent. Yeah, Jay-Z. There's Biggie.
Busta Rhymes.
Yeah.
I'm just seeing. Just trying to see where y'all head at when it comes to Brooklyn.
KRS-One.
Look, and I was nervous at first. The only reason I picked KRS-One is because I remember the song. Is Brooklyn in the House, and just several songs he had with the word Brooklyn in it. So it was like, okay, I can say that one. But I always usually just say anybody from New York, right? And then it'd be like, if you from New York, to me, I thought that just kind of covered all of it, whether it was Brooklyn or what the Coney Island, and clearly
Queens, yeah, Harlem, Manhattan, Bronx,
BX.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, today we are going to talk about a number of things. One of which will be coronavirus. And look, I know that some of us are kind of tired of talking about coronavirus, but you can't be tired of talking about something that's affecting you every day. Right. And so we're going to talk a little bit about that, but we're going to do it a little differently. We're going to talk about some of the conspiracy theories that are out there, some of the things that are considered facts, how stir crazy some of us might be going right now. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. We're going to talk a little bit about conspiracy theories, coronavirus, Illuminati, Black sexualization, when they use us for evil, right?
Use my vessel for evil.
So we're going to talk about a number of those things when we come back here today on Situation and Circumstance. Until then, check this out.
Cause I'm all white. Classic! What's up?
Hey! Yeah, did that like red alert for the people that say New York, Brooklyn, and all over there. Y'all know what's up with Red Alert. That's one of the original, you know what I mean? And welcome back to Situation and Circumstance. And yeah, I'm happy that you all have joined us. You know, if you want to join us in a bigger way, you can go choose to join us on Zoom, right? And then we can pull you right in. Otherwise, I will be looking at my Facebook. So if there's some questions that you want to post there or comments that you want to make, I'll try to periodically look at those and see what we can do about those things too. And so, coronavirus. Yeah.
Coronavirus.
Corona. Yeah. And so,
is it really real?
Correct. Okay. The actual virus that we're talking about is SARS-CoV-2. SARS, because this is a SARS virus that we saw earlier. We've had 3. This is the second form of this. SARS-CoV for coronavirus 2. It's the second one. All right. And the disease that it causes is COVID-19, COVID-19, coronavirus disease 19. Coronavirus itself is a group of type of viruses. It's a family of viruses that have been with us for a long time. Now, we are calling this the novel. Novel means new, not novel like you read. A novel coronavirus means it's a new coronavirus, right? SARS-CoV-2. And because it's new, there is no immunity to this, which means what? Everybody who comes in contact with this virus will catch it.
You don't believe in coronavirus, Boosie? I think I had it already because I was sick before this shit. I had an asthma pump for the first time and everything. But I don't give a fuck about no coronavirus. I kind of basically live on faith. I don't live on sight what people say. I just feel like God knows you're gonna die when you're born. So if you're gonna die from the coronavirus, get your ass ready. That's just how I feel. I get what you're saying, but you know, they say faith without works is dead. So if they tell you that you can social distance and wear a mask to prevent from getting it, you can work towards not getting it.
So I did 2 things there, right? So the first thing I did was I had Dr. Duck C. Bung, right? So he's a certified doctor. If you go to that on YouTube, you'll see that, shout out to YouTube and Dr. C. Bung. You'll see that the first thing he does before he talks about what this thing is he shows you like all of his credentials. And he shows it on the camera in case, you know, people doubt what he might be saying or whatever. And then you'll notice I followed that with Breakfast Club interviewing Boosie, right? And that's why I kind of played that song earlier, what we heard earlier, that first song of the day, was Lil Boosie. And I wanted to show that too, so that those who may not know who Boosie is, those who aren't looking at all of the strippers and all of the things that have been happening. He's been making a lot of money during this coronavirus by exploiting in different ways. And I don't know if I'm how mad or not mad I am with him, but I wanted to show the vast differences between this thing, right? Because one of the things Boosie was saying was like, well, first of all, this guy, I really wanted to not say it this way, but I'm just gonna have to be me. He's an idiot for saying, right? So I'm not talking about marketing and his marketing strategies and everything he's done to continue to be afloat during this time where artists can't even tour. But the reason I'm saying that he made an idiotic comment is that here he is still having huge parties at his house at a time where we're supposed to be quarantining ourselves. So before we even get into the part of this that is conspiracy, I just want to know how each of you feels about, before we even get into the conspiracy part, how do you feel about, like, do you feel it's necessary? Should we be staying in a house? Do you believe the doctors when they say you should be quarantined so that it doesn't spread? Or should we all be doing like Boosie and throwing huge parties? Come on by and drop your corona at the door.
Real.
What about you, Brooklyn?
No, I don't. I don't believe in Boosie's strategy, because it's no strategy at all. I think that we should be definitely listening to the medical experts, and we should definitely be social distancing. I mean, I'm not saying buy up all the toilet paper like they have been, but definitely take precautions to be clean, be a little bit more clean than you typically would be. Wash your hands. I mean, if you can wear a mask, wear a mask. If you're vulnerable, wear a mask. You know, just everything that they've been telling us. But yeah, I don't agree with going to parties. I actually got invited to a couple parties since quarantine started, and I'm like, are you serious?
Yeah, because y'all dying out there like flies.
Yeah,
What did you say? Y'all
in New
dying
York,
out there like you in another country or something?
in New
Like,
York,
y'all
it's
dying out
about
there.
half the cases
Like 10,000 deaths right there. Say it
We have
again?
half the cases nearly, right?
Yeah.
Unless those numbers dropped in all of the US. So
Yeah.
New York's
Now,
pretty hot spot.
It's touchy though. That's a touchy subject though, because a lot of them numbers is a little skewed. We
Okay,
gotta be honest.
clearly.
We gotta be honest. But what I'll say is, I'm in, right? This is happening. It's going on. Everything is happening. So it's very real because it's happening, right? But then my third eye kick in, right? And my shit started kicking in, and I started asking questions, and I'm like, okay, I'm in, but is this a sign where I need to work on me? Am I being given this time to work on me?
Yeah.
A lot of us we work a lot. We be consumed with what we're doing to pay the bills. Is this my opportunity to work on me?
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? At the same time that all this is going on, that's the question that I'm asking. And then I'm like, yeah, for sure. Because I've already been doing that. But this give me an even more opportunity to do that. So yeah, I'm finna stay in and do that because I've been doing it, but it's an opportunity to work on me. Am I avoiding being caught up in what is going on as far as the virus and all that? Yep. At the same time, yes, I am. Right? Am I trying to stay ahead by keeping my immune system strong and keeping them antibodies in me? You keep my antibodies strong? Yes, I am. But at the same time, it's like, yeah, I get an opportunity to work on me. You know what I'm saying?
I think I'm on both sides for this. I think at the physical level, there is what's going on Earth, you know, like the quarantining, but then at the metaphysical level, I'm also there as well. Like this earthly thing is happening in order for us to, you know, do other reason. Because since quarantine has happened, I've kind of really gotten my life together, like what it is that I'm even doing right now. And then my spirituality is definitely something that I wanted to work on, because I kept seeing like these signs from what I say is the universe, from God, from the universe. And I've been kind of like really just doing very, very well. So I'm like, hey,
that pioneer.
If this is what it took, this is what it took, then.
No, for real though. But you recognize
the interesting thing about this is that, so first of all, right, social media is kind of messing us up, right? Because so many of us don't know what to follow or what to believe is true, right?
Yeah.
And I love it when people say this. People are quick to say, well, hey, it's just common sense that this is what's happening. But I've said in many shows before, common sense is overrated. And it's subject to what your common sense was in the household or that environment that you grew up in. So your common sense is somebody else's. Like, I don't get that at all. Having said that, okay, so, right, one of the very first theories that I heard early on was that over in China, they were eating some bad dog. And I know there's some people in there like, what's some good dog?
I think it was bad.
But they were eating some bad dog that had the coronavirus. Now, right, so there's been some studies that say, right, that this virus has been around for a long time. Even the doctor that was just on, he said how this is part of this COVID-19 is part of this bigger virus chain of coronavirus, right? It's an element of that. And there's people who, if anybody ever had a dog, and you ever had a dog, and some of us may have seen that dogs sometimes can catch parvo. Well, way back in the day, they also could catch coronavirus. This was way 30, 40 years ago, dogs had this thing. So white people's theory is that one theory is that it was inside of a dog already. Then somebody in China that had a hankering for some barbecue puppy ate it. And then they got the virus, and then they kissed on somebody and gave it to them, and maybe they sucked the toe with an open wound, whatever. But basically saying that it came from that. Then you got other theories that it is to take over the world. Now, last theory I want to say before we go into what our guest has to say about, or his opinion on these things, is that one of the other things is, I don't know if anybody is a fan of like Godzilla and King Kong. When I was a little kid, I used to like it. Then I got older, and as I get older and they remake some of these wonderful movies from before, some of them suck. Some of them are like, whoa, now we got the technology to make it look better. And on the last Godzilla, part of the theory behind, and I know you're like, how does Godzilla have to do a coronavirus? Because Godzilla was in China, because they invented him? No. So in this last Godzilla, here's the twist that they did. What they said was all of these big creatures that were coming up that Godzilla was fighting were actually these big creatures that were coming up because it was the Earth's way of fighting back. So now if we don't look at the fictitious part of there being a giant roach or a mafia, or whatever, all those big monsters, let's take those monsters, instead of it being this physical beast, let's look at it as these diseases and things that maybe nature is saying, hey, you guys have messed with me long enough. I need to take some of y'all out. So there's that other theory. And then the last theory that I've heard has to do with, of course, biblical. This is the one the Bible was talking about. Now, we know that that's been said about different things. AIDS is the one the Bible was talking about. No, cancer is. No, smallpox is, et cetera, et cetera. This is not me taking from that being true, just throwing it out there. And so, Stephen, which is a beautiful name, maybe you can start off first telling us where the name Stephen comes from, because that's a very unique name. And then why don't you go into where you're seeing, I think you have some other theory that is pretty conspiracy. And that's a new word. I just made it up. Say it to yourself, conspiracy.
Oh, Lord.
I'll never say that to myself.
But yeah, my name is Stephen. Birth name, my mama came up with it. She was looking at the back of a Stevie Wonder album, and his real name is Stephen, just spelled a little different. And she thought it was fitting, and so she spelled it a little bit different, and that's me. Yeah.
So what's up with what do you think is going on about this virus and the conspiracy that why do you believe that it may be something other than just this thing that happened, right? That it's always been around, we finally caught it.
I think my opinion is that it's a multi-pronged issue, right? There are some truths, I think, in different areas of what we're talking about. Firstly, being that I know since about 2003, every 4 to 5, maybe 6 years, I hear about a new flu, right? You can go back and look. Every couple years, it's a new flu, right? I don't know if people know, but flus, they are man-made, right?
Where do you get that?
Found out.
So flus are man-made.
Found out some information that the patent for coronavirus was made in 2006, I think, 2004 or something like that. So if you got a patent on it, that means it's man-made, strictly. It's just what it is, right? So, okay, there's a patent for this disease. Then you get a patent for the vaccines. All these diseases that we've been having from about 2003 to now, there are vaccines for each one of these. And there's been a vaccine process for each one of these, right? That's man-made, okay? So then I think that's a prong of what's going on. And then on another end of the perspective is they're talking about this 5G thing, right? These towers that are putting out this radiation, which we all know it affects us as human beings. It affects everything. You got birds falling out the sky, animals dying, all this different stuff. They tested it, the first place that they tested 5G with the strong radiation wave was in Wuhan, and people was just falling out and dying. Okay, so then you bring that prong in, and you're like, okay, damn. So there's a bigger piece to this in my mind than just being a disease, right? So some of the effects of 5G, the strong 5G, is flu-like symptoms. So if you're getting flu-like symptoms, right, and then you have a virus that has flu-like symptoms, and you want to push this 5G movement and build these towers and put them in these different places, right? You have to mask this by some way. Okay, well, we got this real virus and it has these same symptoms, right? And from what the dude said on there, it's a combination. From my research, it's a combination of different viruses put together, right, to create this new thing that's going on. So if you have that going on, then that masks what's really going on in the background, and it keeps everybody fearful. So in my opinion, the real pandemic is fear, right? That's the true and real pandemic that's actually going on. From my research, as far as flu, 250,000 people die every year from flu, right? Then you start looking at I'm going to the CDC and I'm looking, and they admitting that some of their numbers were skewed as far as how many people are dying, how many people are being actually diagnosed with this actual COVID-19 or coronavirus.
When you say some of the numbers are skewed, some of the numbers in regards to what? Like some of the numbers of how many
in
deaths
regards
in, or how many
exactly
people have just the virus, or
exactly what? The reason why it's skewed is because everything is being considered as COVID-19.
So meaning
that was my point of saying
off of a different flu strand, they're going to call it COVID-19.
Exactly.
If somebody died, so different, maybe it wouldn't be ridiculous, like somebody got hit by a car and died, then they wouldn't say that. But basically, you're saying any way that they can find, and I'm just paraphrasing or just trying to make sure I have clarity on what you're saying. Anything that they can consider one of the symptoms that you would get if you had coronavirus is now just being called that. So that it supports this idea that this many people are actually dying from it. Is that what you mean?
Boom. And then now let's talk about, that's exactly what I mean. So then let's talk about the cash cow, right? Okay, the cash cow, it means you eating all the way around, right? So if you're eating off the COVID with the pharmaceuticals, and then you're eating off 5G, which gives off these same symptoms, but you still putting this stuff up, and if things can run faster and more efficient, and you can create this situation, then there's money to be made from that. Right? It's a cash cow from that. It's just, to me, that's my conclusion. It's like, okay, I see what it is.
What you think, Julius? I'm real interested in what you think, and if you're gonna somehow relate it to a cracker.
Well, it always relates to crackers, but
always
you have to check, the resume. I mean, everybody has a resume. You do a background check before you get a job or whatever, and just the resume of America or white Europeans isn't that great. So I question everything, really, not just this, but I question everything that can potentially be monetized. Anything that's not for the people should be questioned. And that's not me saying that everything that they say is not true, but it's me saying that I reserve the right to question literally everything. As far as the 5G and stuff, I try not to get too deep into that, because I'm not surprised by anything at this point. I really don't do too much research in certain things anymore, because again, the resume, when you look at someone's resume, it's like, well, we already seen this happen 10, 15, 100 times. So what can be new? The name can be new to the act that they do, but the intent behind it, it shouldn't be too alarming. So when the syphilis, I know me, I don't get, I don't take medicines, I don't get the shots and all that good stuff. And if and when I do have kids, I'm blessed to have kids, they won't be. But one can easily say that's insane. But as a Black person, if you just look at the resume, look at the background, it wouldn't be insane to just understand. You might not have to agree, but it wouldn't be too far-fetched to not understand. And the quickest thing that we can go to is the Tuskegee experiment. When Black men in America for 40 years, 1932 to 72, was being injected with syphilis by these said experts. So that's why I know Brooklyn up there, Tiana, she said, you know, we should listen listen to the experts, which I agree to an extent, but there's that fallacy that doctors and healthcare workers
Yeah.
are experts just because of the incentives that come behind it. I agree with you that we should listen to
part of
people
it.
who can, you know, who has done the knowledge, the research. I agree with that. However, when we are in America or any country that's in a capitalist society, a mindset to make money off production, that's when I start questioning things.
I'd be interested, you know, I like that you said that production part specifically, because I'd be real interested in knowing how many, not how many, but which people took stock out on toilet paper and water and different things like that prior to this happening, right? Because some people are making a bunch of money off this thing happening. And I'm not suggesting that if you're making money off of this, if you're a hand sanitizer company, I'm not suggesting that, you know, that is part of this other conspiracy where you worked with these people in order to get a virus out, so that because you knew people were going to use hand sanitizer. On the other hand,
it's not
I was
far-fetched.
watching one of these Tyler Perry, one of these varying Tyler Perry shows. This particular one, all the dark-skinned guys aren't bad guys. Anyway, yeah, it's one where there's some light-skinned bad guys and some dark-skinned heroes. Anyway,
That's not Tyler Perry.
I love you, Tyler Perry. I'm just talking. But I'll tell you what, so he has this one, I think it's called The Oval, and it's about the Oval Office. And so there's a white president, and he's married to this Black woman. They got all these issues. Anyway, on one part of this thing, he's also seeing a very valuable hoe, that's a garden tool. So he's seeing this garden tool, right? And he calls her and he tells her, hey, you know what? I'm getting ready to pass this law that this, and the other. And as a result of this law, this particular stock is going to rise, right? So he calls her because she got him all turned out, right? His nose all full open. And he got her turned out. And so, I mean, she got him turned out. And so he shares with her that. And I just wonder, I'd be real curious to see who purchased certain stock in certain areas. Not just anybody, but specific people that are already Warren Buffetts and you know, people who are already known to have a bunch of money and into the stock game. Yeah. And I just wonder how many of them may have already took stock in that.
To run it up.
I mean, it makes sense. It makes sense. Even if they didn't do a prior, even if they didn't do a prior, doing it now, being that stocks are lower, they have the money to buy millions of stocks. While the ones who only had a few hundreds like me, it's tanking. But those 100 stocks that I have that are tanking, they can buy millions and it can go up in about, I don't know, 7-8 months. So, I mean, the rich always wins, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, if you know the info, I mean, they had a, damn, what school was that? I can't even remember the name of the school, but I watched it though. They had a whole breakdown of if the United States had a virus outbreak, and they did a whole panel. This was at one of like the accredited schools. I can't remember the name of the school. But I want to say John Hopkins. So I think so. But anyway, they did a whole panel of what the procedure would be if this was to happen. And this happened in, I think, November of 2019.
Which kind of supports that.
And it's on YouTube. So you can look it up. You can say whatever you want to say. You take the time and you can go look it up. And they did it, which means if they're doing it like that, then yeah, it's people planning and talking about the money. Because it all leads back to the money. So you take your money out of this and put it in this and triple up, quadruple up. You feel me?
But then I wonder if that's the case. Then I wonder. So I know earlier we said, hey, you can find a cracker behind a lot of stuff, and but is this conspiracy theory about 5G? You can find it in your chili beans and in your green. But if this conspiracy theory, if what I'm wondering is, if it's something, it doesn't seem like any conspiracy theory support that it didn't start in China.
Right.
Right?
Correct.
So then the question would be, I don't particularly know that Chinese people trust anyone who has previously attempted to oppress them. Right? So I don't know that. I don't know that they. Go ahead, Tiana.
Is that like their own government?
Well, I mean, but that's a little different, right? It's a little different when you're being oppressed by your own and when you're being oppressed by
they're kind of ignorance is bliss.
This the scapegoat.
Well, so
in 9/11, Middle Eastern was a scapegoat.
So you're saying that this is another one of those things that might go on the cracker list, but they are relating it to, hey, look, Stephen.
The president said the Chinese virus. He said it. Come on,
don't know. Thanks to Julius, we use cracker religiously, but just
that verbiage is like obviously trying to brainwash the public to associate the virus with China for some reason. And there's a pattern of presidents who want to start wars or like paint a certain group, demonize a certain group to use, he's kind of following that cadence or that same pattern.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it all goes back to fear, like I said earlier. Fear. I mean, I remember, well, I don't remember vividly, but when 9/11 happened, the Patriot Act followed right after.
Boom. It was right now.
Everybody was fearful. Everybody was fearful. And that's
the same thing happening
now. Yeah.
It's the same thing happening right now. Whole new world. When we come out of this, it's gonna be a whole new world. It's gonna be a lot more people staying in the house. Everywhere you go, people gonna be wiping stuff and doing it. We didn't do that before. Well, it's gonna happen just like when 9/11 happened. When 9/11 happened, when 9/11 happened, right?
Like that.
When 9/11 happened, but when 9/11 happened, we start going to the airport. After that, right? We start going to the airport. You start getting patted down. You're like, wait a minute, this is a whole new world. This is different. What's going on?
Well, and that's actually a great segue into it's a whole new world, and part of what Illuminati was, according to not only what was heard, but according to what's actually inside of, what they have on Wiki. Let me just tell you what it has on Wikipedia. So it says, I'm going to try to read this. I don't have my glasses on, so I'm going to try to strain and read this good stuff here. It says, the common theme in conspiracy theories about a new world order is that a secretive power elite with a globalist agenda is conspiring to eventually rule the world through an authoritarian world government, which will replace sovereign nation states and an all-encompassing propaganda whose ideology hails and some more stuff. So basically what we're saying there, or what it's saying there, not what we're saying, but it's saying, thank you, my wife is great. She brought me my seeing glasses. And so what it's saying there is, right? She's wonderful. And what it's saying there is that basically this is like a group of people that they're out to, they're out to control the world, to make it where there is kind of like what's already happening, where there is a small elite group that is in control of the rest of the world. Basically, they're like gods. Think like Marvel and DC comics, where there's always always a super villain that's taken over, and it's always a small group of supervillains that are trying to control the rest of the world, right? So here's what we're gonna do. I don't know how much we're gonna go into that particular conspiracy theory of the Illuminati. I like where we're going with this coronavirus, but what we'll do is we're gonna go into a brief intermission, song that I think you'll really dig, and then when we come back, we're either gonna go into this Illuminati thing, or we're gonna go back into some of what's going on with this coronavirus. Once again, you're here at Situation and Circumstance, KCBZ Radio, baby. Situation and Circumstance. Don't go nowhere.
The one. He the evilest. The evil.
Didn't he quit? I mean, didn't he quit, or didn't he give his didn't he stop doing or step down from CEO or whatever?
I don't know, but I know this. He been talking about depopulating the world for a long fucking time, and he got a lot of fucking money. And every time something come up, they want to go talk to this motherfucker. Every time.
Yeah, India sued him for the polio. It was about 40,000 people died of polio a couple of years ago, and he funded the whole little vaccine.
Yeah, man. That's how he getting his money, man. They doing the shit, then he fund the vaccine, man. That's why he like everybody gonna get it. He the one who said that shit. Everybody gonna get it. But what happened is the body adapt. We adapt. We are adaptogens.
He said everybody can get it.
You feel me? We all done had the flu. We all done had. We don't know what type of flu we done had. You feel what I'm saying? So, but the body adapt.
Hey, did you have a flu a couple of weeks, like about a couple of months ago? I remember you were sick.
Me?
Nah, I was. Yeah.
You had the flu or not? Just a little cold?
You know, I don't know what to call it.
30 seconds.
Because I honestly don't know what to call it, because I didn't Once again, welcome back to Situation and Circumstance. We're here at Thank You for Asking. Am I all right? I did have a little bit of that going the wrong pipe. Drinking some liquid, that is. You got to be careful what you say live. So the wrong pipe. I thought you was straight. I heard you. Well, anyway, welcome back to Situation and Circumstance here on KCBZradio.com. Of course, here with me is my man Julius, and of course Tiana's back with us. Hopefully, this won't be. We'll be able to keep this up with us. And then one of our guests today, joining us in some of these conspiracy theories. His name is Steveland, also known, aka one of my oldest sons and dearest sons. And so just throwing that out there. I wasn't gonna say that, but I just
that's your son?
I love my I gotta say it. I can't help it.
Wait, that's your child?
Huh?
That's your offspring?
Yes.
He's your offspring?
Yeah.
Wow.
Like
as much.
No.
Okay. Like way off.
Off the screen.
Right.
So welcome back to us.
It's deeper than that. It's deeper than music.
It's deeper than that. It's definitely that. If you're just joining us, we're talking about conspiracy theories, one of which is this coronavirus. And some of the things that we've been hearing was how it's related to the 5G networking and some of the other thinner conspiracy theories. And I'm calling them thinner because I don't think that they have as much weight as some of the things that you've shared with us today, Stephen. And I wonder, some of the things you're sharing in terms of it's related to the 5G and some of the conspiracy, I'm wondering if there's someone, if there's somewhere that you're like, where are you getting your information? Other than commonsensical things, are overrated. Where are you getting your information?
Yeah, I always go. Let me say this first. I always have been the type of person, right? Before you came in my life and became my pop, right? My pop wasn't there, so I always looked at information, I deciphered it, and I took the good and the bad from it, right? So I've always been that. That's the type of researcher I am, so that's the type of people that I gravitate toward. With that being said, I've been really listening to Bro Sanchez live. So you go to YouTube, you can check out Bro Sanchez. Man, he coming from an outside the box perspective.
Spell that if you know if you know how to spell.
Bro, BRO Sanchez, SANCHEZ.
Okay, Bro Sanchez.
I mean SANCHEZ. Bro Sanchez. He got live and he got Bro Sanchez TV. Where he talks outside the box about a lot of these different things, and it all comes together with a lot of the information that he's saying. And so I definitely do that. And then I always, since this been happening, I've been checking in with the CDC, just checking in, doing all different check-ins just to see what they actually saying. Because a lot of times, some of these organizations or people that have this information, sometimes they sneak stuff under your nose and you don't get to go and check and understand for yourself. You know what I'm saying? So although sometimes the information may not be all the way, it go back to what I said at the beginning, whereas I decipher the good from the bad and I use that, you know what I'm saying, which I would advise for anybody, you know what I'm saying,
That's real.
in this life.
And it won't hurt, you know what I mean? Like that's the thing, it won't hurt to go deeper. Even if it's not true, even if it is, it won't hurt to question things. And that's what I think we, as a society, we fail to do. I know Black people, we question everything, but we get called the conspiracy theorists. That's the funny thing. We get called the conspiracy theorists because
which is okay to me.
Stuff, you know? Then it ended up being right.
It ended up being right, but
oftentimes.
Yeah, oftentimes, but it won't be revealed in our lifetime, or it might be, but in our lifetime, we get painted like Malcolm X. He was called insane. He was called an extremist. But 50 years later, he was right almost about everything that he said. So in his lifetime, he wasn't he was an extremist in his lifetime. But that's why I don't like calling the majority of Black people conspiracy theorists. Just because a lot of times we just refuse to believe what they have told us. And we just go a little deeper, but we refuse to go with the status quo. And challenging the status quo makes you insane. It makes you a theorist. It makes you an extremist.
Yeah.
But aren't we perfectly suited for that? Like, we're perfectly suited for that. Like, part of what you said earlier about whether it's the Tuskegee experiment, whether it's about the conspiracy theories about AIDS and all of these
slavery, anything.
I was talking to this, she maybe she was about 80-something years old. I ran into her a few weeks ago, just in a parking lot, and she saw me walking, and I was wearing one of my beads, but I had a different, this one got some nudity on it, but I was wearing a different one that was a little bit more kosher. And she was like, "Hey, brother, are you Hebrew?" Right? And then I meet you before? And this is what she did. And I was like, "No, I don't know if we met before, but maybe, because I talk a lot. So we could have met somewhere." Right? And so she began to talk, and she started saying how, she was just saying how her theory was that, you know, all of these things are happening to separate the game from the truth right now, right? So approaching that time where what you believe is getting ready to matter is where she was going with. So whether that is, if you believe in the omnipotent one, and you believe in whether it's the blood of Christ or Allah, and I hate to combine some of those because I know there's some interesting differences in those belief systems, but ultimately her thing was, those of us who ain't believing right now are doomed to this kind of thing. This is just the beginning of a long road of this that's going to happen in a short period of time. Long road, short period of time that this is going to happen to us because it's biblical. And I wonder, Tiana, how do you feel in terms of like, do you feel like this relates any kind of way to something biblical? Do you believe that it's just, do you believe it's nature? Do you believe it's like, how do you see, or how do you respond to what I just said about that meeting with her? What did that bring to your mind?
You're talking about the virus specifically?
Yes.
Nature versus, what was the other aspect?
Nature versus, this is, the Bible has already said that certain things were going to happen, and this is just part of it.
See, that's tough. That's tough because there's two sides of me. Because there's there's the nature aspect that, like, yeah, this virus is affecting the world. We need a quarantine. We need to stay inside, isolate, follow the medical experts, and hope that it goes away and continue and go about our daily lives. But then there is, like I said earlier, the metaphysical or the spiritual aspect. But that's not necessarily going to be the same throughout society, though. So I don't know. I don't want to make a call like that.
I heard that. I like how you answered that. You're like, you're not going to get me to.
Yeah, well, like.
Yeah. Well, here's what we'll do. I'm really excited and anxious to kind of shift into something, but I want to make sure we have a really clean meeting for this section of what we've discussed before we go into something that I don't know how it's going to make people feel. Sometimes when we talk about Black lives and how they matter. You see what I did there? Sometimes when we talk about that, I've noticed that depending on the age, it can become this thing that is not wanted to be discussed, right? So what we represent on this call right now is we represent everything from early 20s to however the hell old I am.
Hey.
48. I don't mind telling mine because I earned it. And so one of the things that happens is we talk about a lot of these different things, and we don't have the opportunity to hear how the different generations are discussing it and how it matters. And what happens when we talk about slavery is the younger generation, it's been my experience, I should say, I'm not blanket statement it, but it's been my experience that the younger generation, they don't really want to talk about or see movies that depict us way back with the ISO massacre and the spankings and the whips and the cherry back from the blood and all of that. Present company excluded, but I see a lot of that. They don't want to go in. They don't want to see it.
Yeah, I don't.
Fed up.
Yeah.
Well, and if you are of a certain age, if you're 18 years old, can you be fed up with how you've been treated in this melanin? If you're 18, can you be as tired as someone who's 80 or 40?
Yeah, because that type of stuff gets passed down through DNA. Yeah, for sure.
I agree.
If you're a student of history, you can just empathize. You might not have to go through it literally, physically, but you can empathize. There's times that this is a weak example, but when I'm not a Warrior fan, but when Kevin Durant got injured and Klay Thompson got injured right after, I felt that. I'm a Laker fan, so I didn't have to go through that physically myself or even as a fan, but I felt what their fans felt. So for me as a Black person, I know, not through obviously going through it, but I can feel like what you said through being passed down trauma. You know what they went through, or at least you can empathize with what they went through. And, my dad is 67 now, and when I write, I write the stuff that I write. He tells me could have been said exactly as it was if in 67. So the fact that I'm able to write something through my experiences, and he, as a 67-year-old, can say, wow, that looks as if it was in my time, that shows, one, you got to do your history, but that shows that things, if you go through any type of experience, nobody should be able to judge how serious that experience is to you. It can affect you greatly, or it cannot affect you that much, or directly or indirectly. So 18-year-old, Tamir Rice was 12.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
the difference is too is when I was a youngster, right? Like I call myself a tweener. I'm an 80s baby. You know what I mean? So I was around when it was VHS, tape, and all that, to the CD player, to all this, right? So these kids are seeing it. We wasn't seeing it. They're seeing the actual,
because you guys would have had to go to
visualization,
the library where they buried some of the lies to get the same information.
You had to you feel me? Which is why I love that
or it
that
had
my
to be
life
shared
path.
from.
That's why I love my life path ran me into you, because I was already like into writing and all that, but you made me a wordsmith. Like what does this mean? Go look it up. So that's me. I love words. So it led me into more and more and more. And I already had that itch in me anyway. You know what I'm saying? But these kids, they're seeing these things. You feel me? They seeing what happened to Tamir Rice right now.
Right.
So they trauma hitting a different way. You feel me?
Now,
so they fed up right now. Like, hold on, wait a minute. And my people talking about with this and all this and with all this happened back in the, nah, we ain't going for it. You gotta think like Pac had a purpose in his life. You feel me? Pac came in like to you feel me? Spark some shit, cause he wasn't going for that shit. Like nah, and it was we seen that. But these kids seeing hellish. Oh, I'm sorry. Excuse me. They seeing everything. Mm-hmm.
Well, I wonder this. Two things. First, on a lighter note, Sarah of Beaumont, California, asks. She asked, that guy Julius, he has stocks. Is he single? I thought I'd just say that because hey, she put it out there, so I put it out there.
Shameless plug.
I'm just giving her a shout out to Sarah for wondering about another
Do you
man.
have the
Rooster.
coronavirus?
Sarah, we will trade Julius for toilet paper.
We
Put it out there. Sarah.
Put it on live.
Well,
I'll give you
Sarah, you
$1,000.
don't have the coronavirus, do you?
Tell
I
her
had
you put it
another
on live. I'll give you
caller, or
$1,000.
actually somebody who texted that asked, does anybody believe that the chip, right? So they've, again, this year, they've talked about now finally installing, like people are getting a chip installed in their skin now. And this is something that came up maybe in the early 90s, somewhere like that. They talked about a chip. And back then when it came up, conspiracy theory, they said that this was a chip that was going to have the 666 on it. And this was going to be the way at which people got the mark of the beast. Now that was in the early 90s when that was said. So now we fast forward to this time now where people aren't really thinking about it, meaning that, and they're getting the, so I wonder if you've heard anything about the chip, excuse me, number one, and if you think this chip and this coronavirus thing, because part of this chip is supposed to show when, to help regulate, show when you're feeling a certain way or when your body's a little bit off. There's a chip that could tell, that could send that right to the doctor. These levels are off.
That's ridiculous.
I mean, if they got that, which I'm sure they do, and I'm gonna look it up and do all that, it's just the beginning testings of it, so it could work. It's gonna warp into something else. You know,
Yeah.
And that's what it's all
You
going
feel
back
me?
to, right? It's the whole fear tactic. It's
Yeah.
if say 250,000 people die from a seasonal flu, that's every year
Mhm.
somebody dies from the flu, and we know people who be having the flu. We be in the same house, we be in the same car. We don't be tripping. We be like, oh, you just stay over there, but we be in the same 2 feet. We be kissing people who got the flu, who be having the cold.
I ain't no flu
None of that fear stuff. But the
But it
point is,
happened.
You a flu
right,
kisser.
right. But none of this stuff was happening. And now it's like we don't even know who has it. There's been times we've been in the same car, in the same house, and we know who has it, and we haven't done anything. Now we don't even know who's carrying it. But stay 6 feet, wear these masks, stay in the house. It's like that fear is amplified with social media. Social media has its goods and its bad, but it's amplified with it because you have the older generation who are just like freaking out. Then you have the younger generation who, like Boosie, who don't care at all, and they're mixing. They're mash. What's the word? You know what I'm talking about. But you gave me this thing about what's that white guy name who had the letter?
Willie Lynch.
Willie Lynch. He said to divide the young,
Separate the
older
old black
generation.
male from the young black male. And even though he said male, he's talking about women too. But
Yeah.
separate the old black male from the young black male, the light-skinned black from the dark-skinned black, etc. Teach the woman how to be independent and teach the male how to be dependent upon.
And these things are coming to fruition. I believe these things are coming to fruition with the older and younger generation, but with the strong black woman who everybody knows is strong, but now she can't. We were staying in a house. She has to go get her groceries, all of these essential things by herself. The man got to do the same thing. They can't connect to each. It's just all. Everything is amplified. Whenever you see a crisis or a pandemic, nothing is new. It's just heightened, and the fear is real. And I'm not saying don't take precautions, but I mean just live your life. You have an expiration date that was signed when you were born. So if you died due to this, or if you die by getting shot, or if you die from a peanut allergy, you're going to die. But you can't.
That's kind of what Boosie was talking about, though.
I agree.
That's why I played the ignorant part as well as I played the part where he said.
But
he said that. He said, well, you know, either way, he said it's whenever you're gonna die, it's time for you to die. So if you're supposed to die by coronavirus, that's how you're gonna die. And that's how he used that differently than
to justify his feelings, his emotions.
Yeah, he used it to justify his emotions, to justify having hella parties and all of that, and not confining himself or quarantining or whatever. He used that to justify that. Like, hey, we're gonna die when we're supposed to. So
that's what a lot of people doing. That's what a lot of people doing. They was doing sideshows out here and all kind of stuff. Like, but you going through something, you feeling something, you don't know how to deal with it. You feel me? You don't know how to deal with it. It's soul shop. You feel me?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
You don't know how to deal with that feeling that's in you right now, and it's and that's from the top down. Because I asked the oldest person I know, they ain't never been through nothing like this. So everybody experiencing this right now and going through something, but how do you deal with that something?
And I think
humans generally need something to cling to. Go ahead, Julie.
Yeah, no, excuse me. We're all dealing with it how we think is best, and that's normally how we live life. Period. Right?
Yep.
Like we know
that is how we live.
Can kill us. We know cigarettes can kill us. We know all of these things can kill us. Yet we still do it because we think we have another day. We think we have another year, another turn up. But we know these things can kill us, so we do it in moderation. So everything that we do, we think we're doing it for us. So if Boosie feels like that's can preserve his sanity, or he can remain a man, or he can just be the best father he can be, he's doing exactly what he thinks is best for him. And meanwhile, Tiana's in Brooklyn, where a lot of people are dying, but she's doing what she thinks is best for her. Some people are vegetarians, some people are not, but they're all doing what they think is best for them. So the only time I think we will be able to like pass judgment is when that can directly affect the masses of people. But if you're doing what you think is best for you and that does not influence others' lives, well, I say continue doing it. But being that we don't know who has it, that's where Boosie's comments I don't agree with, because we don't know who has it. That's the only thing I disagree with.
Right. And it's irresponsible. That's the other thing. But so and he specifically said, right? So he's having, there's people coming over stripping and all the whole, and then even if they're not coming to his house party, and he got this whole thing. And again, I'm not mad at him for the part of him that is opportunistic in terms of marketing and capitalism. And hey, you know what? I'm gonna say, hey, who wants to show me their bodies in some kind of
I'll give you $1,000.
Hey, and then people start doing it. But here's the thing.
I got $1,000.
I'll give you $1,000.
Right? They sending me nipples. They sending them nip pics. Nip pics. Did I just create that, or is that old? Nip pics? No? Okay. Forget about it. Okay.
Wow.
But here's what I wonder. So speaking of strippers, right? So one of my friends, shout out to little Abner Morgan out in, well, he ain't little at all, but he's the son of a father, so I call him little. But Abner Morgan out of the East Bay, shout out to you for putting me on some game. I always love when, like all of us on this cast here, I love when we are able to share some things we didn't know, go back, research it, find out more, add to our game, right? And anybody, I'm really interested, particularly if you have ever heard Tiana, just because you may have heard of her, because you, from my experience with you on these, you are well-faceted in not being judgmental about sexploration.
Not judgmental, no.
Okay. And so Sarah Bartman, is there anybody who's ever heard of Sarah Bartman before today or looking at?
That's the lady with the big butt.
The lady with the big. Have you heard of her, Tiana?
No.
Yeah, she was in a zoo. She was being shown off because of her.
Oh,
Right.
That's who Kim Kardashian was portraying when she broke the internet and she put the wine bottle on her butt. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Give her the whole. I mean, can you? I don't mind you doing.
I thought you were just saying that.
Give her the whole full. Do you know the whole full? Not the whole full story would take a long time, but some of those important points.
I do not.
Right. So Sarah Bartman was in Africa, and some before the term cracker existed, that's certainly what these individuals were who went over to exploit. They saw that she had this huge booty. Now, the thing about it was, and we had a little clip of this, but we're not even going to show the clip. We don't even need to. So here's the deal. Sarah Bartman was part of this culture where, similarly to what's going on now, people dance. They dance pretty erotically with each other sometimes, like some of our families and people do. And some Europeans went over there and they saw that she had this huge booty that they weren't used to seeing over there, right? Because no one over there where they were at near the caves had this huge size, luscious butt, all right? And so they saw this butt and saw her dancing with it, and they decide to capture her. The reason I'm calling it capture as opposed to some of these other words is because they treated her like an animal. Is that now they used her on the way to bringing her back overseas to where they were at. She was raped repeatedly, right? So she was raped over and over and over and over again. Then they got her over there and they used her as an object in their zoos. Mm. So she was in there. It wouldn't have been uncommon for there to be a giraffe because they didn't have giraffes in Europe and some of those areas, right? So it wouldn't be uncommon to see a giraffe and to see a silverback gorilla and to see a mongoose and to see Sarah Bartman in that same way. They raped her and used her so much that she eventually died from all the diseases that she had received from these Europeans.
From these crackers.
The clip that we weren't playing, but the clip, I don't agree with what it's called because it says Black women are a mess. But I think that the guy that put that, I don't think he meant it the way that people took it when they expressed it. He wasn't saying, he said Black women are a mess, and then he had Megan Thee Stallion in parentheses. And then he showed her butt, and then it was the butt of this other, of Sarah Bartman. And what I believe, and I could be mistaken, but what I believe, and again, I don't agree that he said Black women are a mess. Even if he thought that, I think we have to be careful about how we say things about our women in front of others, right? But having said that, I think what his point was, younger guy too, I think his point was just trying to say that you have women that have been blessed with that ass, right? And that are using it in whether it's stripping in all these different ways. And I think he was trying to say, look at where this came from. And so be mindful of how we use this thing that came from this woman. And she's actually the one who has the famous name from it. She wasn't the only one.
All right.
They went back and got every person from that village that had a similar butt, because they said, well, if they can make money off her in the zoo, shaking her butt, and then plus we can sell her later, whoever wants to put their weenie in there. We can do that with a whole bunch of them. So that's Sarah Bartman. And I wonder, how do we feel when we know that this is something, first of all, it came from something that she was dancing and stuff for her own community, just like if somebody was in my house right now and the right song came on, they were shaking their ass. Ain't no problem, right?
Bringing back the
Megan is doing it. Megan is making it a part of her brand. I would say that's like the difference, and that there's a historical context that needs to be considered. But I think that, I think I can separate the two between Sarah and Megan, because Megan that's part of her brand. That's how she wants to market herself. And Black women's bodies are definitely the thing to do, the hot thing on the streets, you know. I mean, it always has been, but I don't know. Overall, I don't know. I don't have a problem with.
But it's being that's part of her brand.
Being exploited.
Right. Is she being exploited?
Well, she's choosing to exploit herself, but we all exploit a lot of creatives in general exploit themselves in different ways. She's choosing to do it that way and making money. But a lot of people exploit their trauma, exploit their experiences. And it does do some good, but it doesn't take away the fact of it exploiting them. So everyone is exploiting something. Too. Yeah.
It's about perception because it's about perception, because if this was she was doing in her native land, and this is something natural, this is something innate, right? To who Sarah Bartman was.
Yeah.
And if we talked about genes earlier and it get passed down, it gets passed down. So if Megan Thee Stallion is doing that, but it's about perspective. Do you know that you're doing it, and this is what it is,
I think
and who
so.
you are? Where is your perspective as far as it goes? You know what I'm saying? Because at the end of the day, if you understand what you're doing and what's going on now, it just comes down to perception and how the outside world perceives it.
Yeah.
And I'd rather her be making money. By her, I mean Megan Thee Stallion or any big booty Black woman. I'd rather her be utilizing what she has to get what she wants and be in control of that than obviously like Sarah Bartman is that's quite a while ago, right?
And she was, and it wasn't in her control. She was.
How much is that exploitation still happening, and how is that? Yeah. It's when we think about sexualization of Black people, right? So even something like this, all right? If you're a Black man and you don't have, if you weren't blessed down low, right? If you weren't blessed there, you're wearing that as a bigger scar than say, and I'm gonna get in trouble with my Asian partners here, but then say like if you were maybe part of a race that science has.
You already said Asian.
Well,
you already said it, so don't try to.
Well,
after.
First of all, I'm not speaking from me because I've never seen an Asian penis, so I don't know. But what I am saying is that I read about it, and if that sounds weird, not just about an Asian penis.
A little, but.
I read about.
He said, I read about all of
our bodies and how they're different than other cultures or excuse me, other races. So I have read about that because I really wanted to know, like, is this a stereotype that they say Black men have this and this person has? Is this stereotype or what's real or what's fake? And so I remember reading about that probably when I was a teenager. I had lots of encyclopedias.
You digging out of that hole real quick.
Well, it's the truth though. I read it and it said, and I'll tell you, I remember what it said. It had it listed, and it did have that the Black man was in this category of having generally this certain size penis, and it actually went like Black and white, and it went like Latin, and it went, and it's I think it's particularly said Mexican or whatever. Then it went, and Asian was at the bottom of that list. There was a list. If you look,
there's always going to be some facts behind the stereotype, on average, I think they do have smaller penises on average.
What's the question here?
Who did these tests?
Who did talked about the women too, and the size of your
Julius, like, so where are we going?
Right.
So where we're going is we're going here. So whether that's a stereotype or not, it's one of those things where if you are a Black male and you don't experience and you're not able to prove the stereotype true in your case, you're in this position
if you have a
where anyone who looks at a Black man is assuming that this is not anyone, but there's an assumption that comes with so Black men got big, and Black women are really great in bed, but got really big. Same kind of thing. Now in science, and I don't know,
you trying to censor yourself.
I'm trying not to. This is a clean show. I'm trying not to call it things. But I just wonder, like, how much, if before we got to this country, we were all part of our culture, regardless of which part of Africa we came from, for the most part, there was always this part of us that wasn't ashamed and that embraced sexuality. And so even in terms of like where, that's why when people be like people act like gay was just invented when America was invented. And there's always, I don't know a time in any book you can read where there hadn't been people exploring different sexuality. So that was natural. Dancing and all of that. If you look at Africans now and you look at them back then, there's always been like this certain thing. But now I feel like it's became over sexualized. I'm wondering, do you guys feel like do you see that? Like, how do you see Black sexualization show up?
Man, well,
Or
yeah,
over sexualization.
I think again, it goes back to, I think for me, it goes back to crackers, man. Because what you said, Sarah Bartman, she was doing this in her native land. Like, she was chilling.
Right.
So she was not, or well, as the story goes, she wasn't exploited. We've seen pictures. I've never been to the motherland, but we've seen in her stories of sisters walking around topless or bottomless, and nobody cares. It's just another day. Whereas here, there will be a woman who isn't voluptuous or curvaceous in the slightest, but she'll be sexualized just because we need to sexualize her. Like, it's that time to sexualize her. You know what I mean? Like, so Beyonce, Trina, if you look back in older videos, they weren't the thickest of women. I was watching Nan, Trick Daddy, and Trina, and Trina was petite. She looked good, but she was like very petite. Of course, we still sexualize it. That was her, like Tiana said, that was her brand. She called herself the baddest bee. Like, so she knew what she had. She knew what she did not have. Beyonce knew what she had. She knew what she didn't have. But that exploitation or that infatuation with sex, that's it's scary. And I believe it happens on every land. I believe it happens on every continent. But I can't say it's as real as it is on the motherland as it was introduced with the Europeans and the crackers who went to other lands and then started exploiting their women. I think it's just all part of I think that's who they are. The majority.
It's part of a cracker plan, a cracker nation.
I think it's part of their nature. Like,
Crackspiracy.
I think Black people have a certain nature, and I think white people have a certain nature. Some are good, some are bad, but I think we all have some things to us that some would deem ugly, like an ugly trait that the majority of Black people have. I think some would deem some traits that the majority of Chinese people have. Of course, it won't be 100%, but I think there are some things that are just natural to a certain people. And society influences that a lot, but we make society. So I can't blame it on this word, this idea of society, if people make that very thing, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Well, before we're getting close to that time, and I wonder, I've been told, Stevelyn, that you are creating, I don't know if it's masks for the coronavirus or different things, and so we only got just a really brief moment here. Where can someone buy? Do you have one you can show us? And if not,
yeah, man, I got one. But honestly, it was kind of like I got put to the test. My daughter was like, "You can't make a mask," because I've been sewing and doing different stuff, and I said, "Yes, I can." And so then it kind of started as that, because I got a brand that's called Pine Cone Collection. And so then I made a couple masks like 2 nights ago, and they wasn't good at all. I failed the mission, right? And so then I had to come back and do it again. And so this is what I came with.
All right, let's see what it is. And for you listeners, we'll try our best to describe it in 5 words or less.
See what I'm saying?
That's dope.
I got it. Suwoo.
Yeah.
Corona.
You know, from some pajamas, you know what I'm saying? They got the
Make it
inside part.
Don't tell all the secrets. Don't tell
You can
them
put
where
the-
it's made from. You done just told
man,
half
listen,
the
man.
world how
That's
they
cool.
can make theirs.
Listen, man, listen. They can't do it like this though, right? So it's a little different. You see the details at the top and the bottom, right? So it's big, tight. Got the Pine Cone Collection, which is my brand. Pine Cone Collection is the third eye, the Pioneer blend. And yeah, this is what came from it. And so from the response from the people when I posted it up, I'm gonna start just making them. I wasn't even gonna do it before just because, you know, I'm a conspiracy theorist and I'm like, wearing a mask and all that. But, you know. Yeah.
All right. And again, that's Pine Cone Collection.
Yeah, follow me on Instagram and hit me on the Instagram.
KCBZ. You can leave some information at kcbzradio.com. And if you want to know more about where you can get these one-of-a-kind made masks.
Yeah, I got material now. I got fabrics and stuff.
Is there something you'd like to say before we get off of here? And we miss you, by the way.
Miss you guys. Nothing much, really. Just to use this time, regardless of what you think is going on. The facts are we got to stay inside for now. So use this time to, I don't know, better yourself in general. I'm not going to say start a business or anything, but like any way that can improve your life.
Yeah, that's real.
Yeah, and that's it. And we out here in the BK, all day, still alive, but I'm barely breathing.
Look, I'm throwing up the West Side, but I'm saying Brooklyn. My fingers don't go a different way. That's what they do. They throw up the West Side. Julius, what's that?
Both hands.
Yeah, to add what Tiana said, just do what you think makes you happy. Like find yourself. I know Tiana earlier said that she used this time to really zero in on herself, and that's important, man. So if you have that time, which we do, but just try to just be happy. I don't want to put too much pressure on people to just read 80 books and start 10 businesses and be invited to the Rock Nation brunch next year. Like just make sure your sanity is intact, man, because there's people who dealing with depression, there's people who dealing with domestic violence, people who dealing with kids that they didn't know they had to watch for the whole school year. So just make sure that you're happy. That's the pursuit of happiness, right? That's what everybody loved Will Smith for, is that movie. So just pursue your happiness in this time. It could be really ugly. So just make it dope.
And I certainly agree with all of you. My addition to that would just be, hey, there's too many people happy to be off work or to be doing nothing. And you're looking at it all wrong. If you're getting ready to get unemployment checks and stimuluses and whatever all that stuff is that you're getting ready to get, and you're at home, how dare you not use this time to think of a way to become your own boss, to figure out worst case scenario, you figure out something that you're going to do when we get back to where we're at, that you've been working on from there. Don't waste this time thinking it's relaxation time. This is time that you're actually getting paid, and you should be working on stuff for you. So, as always, we promise our listeners that we will continue to make beautiful mistakes. We embrace the opportunity afforded by our ancestors to speak, whether right or wrong, weak or strong. We be learning humans, working on liberation and scaffolding a meaningful and fair existence for all. Till the next time, my netches. Uhuru.
Situation and circumstance. Fight for wisdom, not ignorance. Trying to avoid it is not a lonely